Hi and welcome to this latest Soul Trader interview. I'm delighted to be here with my new friend, Jane Middleton, who runs a company called Authentic Associates for these Soul Trader inspiring interviews. And I do think you've got quite an interesting and inspiring story, because you're currently, as we speak, chair of the Aviation Club, and we're actually in an aviation-related venue, a very, royal aeronautical, very grand, very grand. And you told me you run a business that helps businesses, dynamic businesses, to grow operationally and so on, all of that grown-up stuff, which I bet you lots of people watching this, their businesses might aspire to. But I was just amazed when you were just chatting before. You were saying that you started off quite shy. You told me once that you wanted to be a pilot. You went to tell your careers teacher about that. You ended up working for, your career grew and you ended up being, I think, finance director for a multi-billion pound business. And you decided to then set up your own business. And so I'm fascinated to interview and find out a little bit more about your story. Jane, to your mind, where does it start in your mind? Do you recognise any of that story?
Yeah, no, I do, and thank you for interviewing us, Rashid, that's great. Yeah, I do recognise it, and I sometimes look in the mirror and don't recognise the sort of 16-year-old that left school and had a 5-minute interview where they said I was a woman and I was bad at maths, so I wasn't allowed to become a pilot.
So you went in there telling them that you wanted to be a pilot. So did you know from when you were a kid you wanted to be a pilot?
Yeah, I was fascinated by aviation since I was about 4. I was very lucky as a 4-year-old back in the 60s to travel.
Wow.
And aviation just fascinated me.
Wow.
So that's what I wanted to do.
So what happened in that careers interview then?
It was very short.
It's a short
It was a case of, what do you want to do? Told them. They told me I couldn't do it. What was plan B? Right. Plan B was the same as plan A. So
that's what you told them?
Yeah.
I like that.
And they
so
told me I was stupid.
Were you feisty then?
No, I was really shy and very quiet.
Right.
I probably was feisty. I used to be quite a rebel, but I was a quiet, shy rebel.
Right, I see.
And I went home that night and I said to my mother, I'm 16, I'm leaving school.
Wow.
And she told me if I didn't have a job by the end of the summer, I'd be out on my ear. So I went and got a job with a bank.
Wow.
Even though I couldn't add up and I was bad at maths.
Was that the truth, or was it when you were told? What was the truth? What was the truth in that, by the way?
I think the truth I've probably found out when I was in my mid-30s was actually I had quite a high IQ.
Right.
But when I was a kid, I used to find maths boring, and nobody showed me what I could do with the maths.
Right.
So you just learn algebra, you learn long division and long timetables and all the rest of it.
Right.
And because nobody showed me what I could do with it, I didn't see the point.
And isn't that ironic, given the kind of stuff that you help people do now, and you've been a finance director and you help people operationally?
Yeah.
I just want to kind of jump forward a little bit. Can you tell people, for people who are watching this, what's that you do now at Authentic Associates? So I know you're the chair of the Aviation Club, that's kind of separate. Tell me, with Authentic, what's that about?
I've set up a business because I came from corporate life, and corporate life is actually quite limiting, unless you do what they want you to do. So it stuffs your creativity, really.
Right.
But I think, from my point of view, I left corporate very disillusioned, very burnt out. Right. And I wanted to take the skills...
Was that because you were working, your career had advanced and you were this really important job, finance director of a huge company? Was it about the expectations that burned you out? Was it the environment? Was it that just didn't resonate with the kind of rebel, the more creative spirit?
I think it was just that you felt your energy was totally wasted. Right. You're thinking to yourself, I put a lot of effort into this, but you have to fight the politics before actually you can do the day job. Right. So I just felt that was a complete waste of energy. That
might resonate with lots of people who are watching this, who perhaps in jobs that they're thinking, and I've been there, where you think, this just doesn't resonate with me, or I just can't, I've done all I can. Going back to those days then, so you were given that ultimatum by your mum, but you had to get a job.
Yes.
And you ended up working for a bank. Tell me a little bit about how did your career then unfold?
Well, I went from there and somehow ended up being a scenes of crime officer with the Metropolitan Police. So I
love that. Somehow went up such a big chance.
It is. The upshot is, I took a risk. My mother found me a job doing finance with a guy who had a chemical company. And it didn't work out. It was out of London. I was 19. I loved being in London, so I came back to London. I was unemployed, and a friend of mine said, go and work at the local police station, which I did. And from there, I found out that there was this job called, now called a crime scene investigator.
Ooh, gosh,
and I thought, yeah, I'll have some of that. So I went to training school for 6 weeks, or 6 months really, learned how to do that.
And is that where you're, as it would sound, where you're studying the scene, you're picking up evidence, you're understanding what's going on, and then you're scientifically assessing stuff, and the information is then...
Absolutely. You're literally at the scene trying to find clues as to who committed the crime. And then you package it all up, and then when people are arrested or whatever, you send it all off to the lab, and they will then process the evidence, and then you get called to court. But when I started doing that, and I can't stress this enough, I was really shy and just had no confidence. So, and
were you still in your teens then when you started this particular...
Yes, no, I was 21.
Yeah.
I was 21.
So it's quite a... I mean, that's quite heavy. Was it quite heavy going? Was it quite intense, or was it quite... I mean, how did you find that?
It's quite weird. I'm not sure I can answer that, because I think at 21, 22, what life throws at you, you just get on with it. You just take it. I couldn't do it today.
Right.
And I know that. And whether that's because I've gone softer in my old age, I don't know. But
how long were you there for, and then what was the next step, and what was, as you were then advancing in your 20s, what was then resonating with you?
I did that for about 8 years, and it really did help my character develop and bring me out of my shyness.
Right.
And then I became allergic to fingerprint powder, and so had no choice but to
stop
doing the job. So went from there, and funnily enough went back to accounting or bookkeeping, and in that meantime PCs had been invented, and bookkeeping was a lot easier.
Yeah, that's the PC. The other type of PC,
not politically correct.
Or the police constables. There's quite a lot. There's quite a lot of PCs, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
the
PCs to PCs, isn't it? Yes.
The personal computer had been reinvented or invented, and I just found accounting I could do it, and then I found something I was good at, which I just used to go and work for small companies, troubleshooting, and go in, and if they were in a mess, that was great for me, because I could sort the mess out. But once the mess was sorted out, I was bored.
But this is extraordinary already, Jane, because for somebody then who was told earlier at school that you weren't good at maths and so on, and then you rediscovered that you were, and then you could help people, and you're called in to troubleshoot, and I guess that's a lot of what's in common with the work that you do now. I mean, I think that's incredible. I mean, it just really strikes me, because I think that I at this moment, I meet lots of people in business who, at the point their business is growing and they perhaps struggle with, or that finance isn't their kind of thing, or, as business grows, it can become very overwhelming. So, I mean, it's great when you discover that there's something that you're good at and find that you're confident at. Do you have anything to say at this particular point for people who feel that they're not good at certain stuff, whatever it might well be? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I'm a great believer that if you put your mind to it, you can do anything.
Right.
I'm not sure that I really put my mind to where I was going until I was probably late 20s.
Right.
Because I just was having too much of a blast, having fun and, doing all the stuff that you're not supposed to do.
I'm not going to ask you.
We won't go there. But life was fun. Yeah. And then I decided I'd better grow up.
Yeah.
My thing to anybody is, if you want to do it, go for it. And really go for it. And it doesn't matter how many people tell you can't do it.
So in this time when then you moved into the troubleshooting and so on, was the budding pilot, or the person who was interested in planes, what happened?
It's still there.
So that was still there.
Yeah, that was still there, and I went on, I guess, mid-30s. I then worked for a private jet company that also owned an airfield and also owned a flight school.
And what was your role there?
I was a flight operations person.
Right.
So I'd learnt that in the Royal Air Force Reserve, so I could bring that into my civil job.
Gosh, there's so much that you've done in your career.
I know, I'm into
wonderful.
everything.
But that's refreshing also, again, for lots of people. So was it... Were lots of those things that you just tried, or as you know, a couple of the things people said, well there's an opportunity here. Was some of it kind of planned? It's interesting, isn't it? Sometimes when we look back at our career, oh yes, I did this, and then I did this, and I did that.
I told my best friend about a week ago that, and I think she probably would disagree with me, I have, and I'll use the word bimbled through life, you know, there's an opportunity to go and do that. I get bored very easily, and so for me, when somebody said, you know, go and work, I wanted to get into aviation. I then became a qualified accountant. That was so boring. And but I did it. I did the qualification because it helped me. It gave me some credibility.
Was it boring in that how people perceive it, or how the limitations of how it can be? It was the exams. It was that bit.
The exams are really boring. And to be honest, how much you really use in real life, I don't know. Because to me, if I've got to employ somebody and I'm looking at somebody who's qualified and somebody who has experience to me is everything.
And is that then, so how did things unfold from when you were working in this, in I guess an aeronautical kind of context with this particular company? Were you getting an opportunity to get near the planes? Was that fun for you?
Yeah. No, we operated 2 business jets, so we got to meet some interesting people.
Did you? High flyers?
Yeah, high flyers. We met some people, and I worked at Heathrow. And from there, I just continued to do a bit of what I wanted to do. Qualified as an accountant, and then got into some senior roles. Once I'd got that credibility, I got to do some fairly senior accounting roles.
And you worked with some big Virgin Atlantic,
TNT Aviation, that moves all the parcels around.
Not bad for a shy girl who lots of people kind of.
Life changed along the way.
Was there a thing about in business, because I guess that business still can be perceived as very male? Were the challenges from that perspective, or was it where you? I don't know what the makeup is in some of those things in operational and finance roles. Was it very male dominated?
I think the industries I've worked in have been fairly male dominated. Aviation, and in particular cargo, the Met Police, all of those are fairly male dominated.
Right.
I think you just have to hold your own, give as good as you get, and get on with it. And I don't think it's ever given me a problem.
Right. So where did the confidence come along? Because one of the things I really like about you, you've got that a really warm. That's funny. When I first met you, I assumed, oh, this is somebody who's very, very serious and grown up. There's that.
Really?
Yeah. There is all of that, but there's also warmth, and there's a playfulness, and you're able to, but also that strength of being able to just mix it with people. Where did those traits come from? Were they there below the surface of the shy person? Did you have to learn them along the way? Were they? You know, I'm just curious about that, because some people never find that courage or the confidence to try this or to try that or to go for it.
I found out that I like people, which I didn't, and I like interacting with people. I like networking. I like facilitating stuff. So if somebody says to me something and somebody else says something else, I love putting the two together and that sort of thing. I got on a plane in the late 90s because I found an advert to go to a Women in Aviation conference in Dallas, and I remember the plane taxiing out at Gatwick thinking, what the hell am I doing on this plane? I thought even more when I got to the hotel room, dumped my bags and had to go downstairs and stand outside a room and meet a load of people. I just didn't feel I had the confidence to get in there. But you get in, you get engaged, and then there have been certain people and role models who have been part of my life, a very important part of my life, that have really helped me.
To go after those.
But not specifically, I never said to them, look, I'm really uncomfortable, I'm not confident or whatever. Just watching them, following them, being around them has really sort of helped. Right,
so you then, as the career trajectory increased, then you talked about qualifying as some senior roles in accounting in big name companies, and then I think your last role was where you were finance director in a multi-billion business.
That's right.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and that height of that corporate kind of world, and then why you wanted to be your own boss? Because it's not an easy journey, and was that and where the courage for that?
Yeah. Well, I'd done 8 years. I worked for a multi-billion. It was an American company, and we had an English subsidiary. It was a $5 billion company. We were a $200 million turnover UK business. And I guess you just find some confidence in that. But as I said earlier, I really got disillusioned with the corporate expectations and political life and the backstabbing.
Right.
And I was burnt out, and I just wanted to start helping. I wanted to put my energy into something that was wanted, I suppose.
Right. And was that utilising all of those skills around helping businesses with their finance and with the operational, because presumably you've had quite a lot of operational experience.
I've been quite lucky, because I don't think I'm your average bean counter, so I think I have been quite lucky. I've worked on the operational side. I've got a great guy who works with me, Graham Knight-Woodette, who does work on the operational side, and I'm not, for an accountant, I'm not a great attention to detail in the weeds. I'm more strategic, whereby Graham will come along and he'll actually nail my feet to the mast and make me do that sort of stuff.
Well, before we wrap up, I want to capture a few of your tips about to entrepreneurs, and I know that we're going to do a series of interviews picking up on some of the issues faced by entrepreneurs as they're growing at the different stages of their business. I think particularly kind of operationally, it would be great to get your lens on through that operations and that finance director side, especially as they're growing, as people need to get their head around that. But for you, being, and I think that I love the fact that your business name is Authentic Associate, so I think there's something about the heart in that. Is being, so you talked about how you wanted to do your own thing. Was that, presumably it took a lot of courage, because one thing helping existing businesses to operate financially effectively and so on, being your own boss and then helping, but it's a completely different beast. How did you find that journey yourself, setting up?
It's 3.5 years ago since I did that, and actually it took a good 2.5 years to get used to it. I could probably have still sold my soul to the devil and gone back to corporate life for the security.
Were you tempted a few times?
Yeah, I was tempted a few times. I was lucky because nothing came along.
So
I'm not sure whether I should say that, but I think when you work for yourself, I'm quite lucky because I do a lot of work within the aviation sector, pro bono stuff. But I think that's great because it keeps you busy, it keeps you focused. I've worked on a couple of big projects, and now 6 months ago I actually decided I would start being really serious about my own business.
So is that where the fact that you're in aviation, is that where then the role that led into the role of being chair of the aviation club kind of emerged from in the experience that you had and there. And so you saying that then it was interesting, this journey of being your own boss, there could be, because presumably you were earning big bucks.
I was, and when you walk away from that, you just go, I wish this was my house. Actually I don't, it's too big to clean. But I don't think it's necessarily the money, because I think you get to a certain stage in life where I'm very lucky and it needn't be about the money. But it's about having that challenge and actually being comfortable with what you've been up to and enjoying it. To me, life's about having fun.
Well, also the flip side, isn't it, in terms of starting your own business, is that if you're wanting to be earning money, then particularly in the early years, think 3, 4, 5 times about going into business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Make it 10.
Make it 10,
the thing is, really find something that you enjoy doing.
Right.
Find something that you're passionate about. If you can find that, you're not going to work, you're just getting up and having some fun. So
tell me a little bit about a typical day and typical week then, and in terms of what the business does now. So you go in there, I get that sense that you're helping businesses who, I guess at that point that they're growing, I think you used that term, dynamic businesses, to grow with financial and operation in terms of structure, I would imagine. Tell us a little bit about that and what you typically do.
Very, very often, some of the companies we work with, a lot of them are owner-managed businesses.
Right.
So they've come along, some of them are engineers or they're manufacturers, and they've come along and they had an idea and it was successful. Right. And they got into business, and then they've had the business for a few years, but then it may have plateaued, they may have hit hard times, competitors may have come along, and you know, they're in a tough time, but they know they want to do something about it.
Right.
So what we tend to do is we will go along, have a word with them, and we'll give them some strategic advice where we can help them actually put together their strategy for growth, and then we can go into the business, we can help them, and we can, if necessary, develop their own staff to begin to work at a different level.
Right.
Which otherwise, unless they've had to before,
Right.
they don't know what they're capable of.
So do you then work with the team, is the associate bit where you then bring in the expertise to help advise and guide them and support them? Is that typically what happens?
It's a very good way of putting it. And then what we do is, as they begin to find their way, and we'll back off and just let them continue to work. And then we're always there to help them.
What are the typical scenarios or the challenges that they're having?
We've got one guy who I've met recently who has 3 businesses, and he's looking to grow. He's been in business 11 years, and he's never had a plan. He's just got there, a bit like myself through my career. He just is there at that stage. But now he's decided that he really wants to put some growth in there. He is the board. There is nobody else at senior level, and he's got middle managers who don't necessarily want to be a manager because they're in a very professional, technical role.
How many in the business? How many people in the business?
It's about 40.
Right,
so
okay.
it's done very well across the 3 businesses.
Right.
But now they want some strategic help to take the business into a more controlled growth.
It'll be interesting when we do our individual interviews, because I think I'm really fascinated about these very different stages of businesses. I think when people talk about small businesses, a small business is so different, obviously, to a one-person business, and then to a micro business, and then to when the businesses are growing, maybe they're between 10, 20, it's probably different, and I'm sure you can walk us through that. So it'll be really interesting to find and explore some of those different differences. So what really excites you about your work now? Do you really, have you found your calling now, being able to go and then work with all these different businesses?
I think so, yeah. I think finally I have. And they needn't be aviation. I mean, for me, I do enough aviation that I can feed the bug, if you like.
Have you been in planes? Are you? Because I've seen a picture somewhere, or am I making it up of you being in a plane?
I have flown in a Hawk, which is the same aircraft that the Red Arrow.
So you assisted, or were you just?
I was assisted. I did
decided?
fly.
Did you? Did they
I was very sick.
What did they let you? Were you literally at any point?
I was in the back seat, and I did. I did one of those controlled turns where you turn.
You didn't go all the way. Were you literally upside down?
Yes.
All the way upside down.
A couple of times. Those guys love to get you to be ill. So I was ill twice. But yeah, I have been in planes. I love flying. I love anything to do with aviation. I am a self-confessed anorak.
Do you feel that all of the skills, the person from the banking background, the accountant, the finance director, the person, the kind of more of the forensics, do you feel as though all those different skills are being applied in what the work that you do? Because I can imagine that fingertips, having to understand and really the clues, isn't it? I guess that must be such an asset. Right?
I'm very lucky in that I can look at a situation and understand it fairly quickly.
Right.
But it took me a long time to realise that is a gift, and that actually is a skill in itself.
It hugely is, isn't it?
And so I get quite frustrated when I look at other people advising businesses, where actually there are so many advisors out there who all they're doing is it's their meal ticket. Once they get in and they see a slot to advise somebody, they could be there 2-3 years later. That's not what I'm about, what we're about. We want to come in, help companies to stand on their own 2 feet and grow and develop. If they still want us there in a much more reduced role, we're more than happy to do it. But to us, it's not a meal ticket. Right.
So, and I loved hearing that. And before you you tell people your web address for people who are trying to track you down, can you?
That sounds a bit ominous. There's a life on my head. No.
I mean, because the big people really resonate with what you're saying. But tell me, if you had one wish for yourself, and one wish for yourself, maybe in the business, and one wish for business generally, what would that be? Maybe first of all, wish for yourself from here on.
Wow. That I can continue to do the stuff that I do within aviation and enjoy it, and travel. Use that to sort of travel more.
And maybe then for your business, and we'll talk about business generally. For your business, what's your wish?
For my business, I hope it continues and that there's a steady flow of clients coming through, that we can help and that we get good feedback.
Right. And for business generally, is there a wish that you wish for people who are in business?
That they enjoy it.
Right.
Because I think you see so many, particularly SMEs, where it's become this big noose around their neck and they just want to ditch it.
Right.
And, if that's the case, have the courage to hang up the boots and go and find something else to do that you like.
And then finally, I just think it just comes to me, and I haven't given you time to prepare, which I quite like.
I'm looking forward to this.
Just three tips for somebody who's going along that journey. And perhaps it is somebody who's at that point and the business does have a lot of potential. You might think, no, I just want to give just tips for anybody who's wanting to go on that journey. So I'll let you choose if it's just general or you think, if you're at this particular point, just any of the tips of your learnings.
I guess be clear of what you want.
Yeah.
Be clear of what it is that your business really is that you're going to go out there and do. And that may just be you going out there doing it on your own, or it may be a bigger picture of setting something up. You said it earlier that things take so much longer to happen. So be prepared that if you think you're going to go from, being employed to self-employed with a good cash flow within 6 months, add on another year probably, or at least another 6 months. Whatever you pick, double it. So make sure that you've got the money, and don't necessarily think that you've got to go to a big bang. Think about can I keep my day job and do this in the evening, or begin to develop the business plan and do all the research.
Or work part time, or whatever.
And then move into part time, and then and then when it's ready, go, because that's a lot less scary. And you may get through 6 months of doing part time and realise actually I don't like this. And if that's the case, have the guts to say to yourself, I don't like it.
It's really good advice. I think that's
change
such good advice. And for people who are trying to find you, what's the web address?
www.authenticassociates.co.uk.
Fantastic.
Look forward to hearing from you.
I want to thank the chairman. I was going to say chairman of the board. Is it technically a board that you? It
is a board. There is a board.
Chairman of the board.
And we just meet and have lunch.
Yes, I'm not going to talk about the awful chairman of the board song.
No, don't.
You do know what it is.
I do remember it.
Because I've given us a little bit more time to talk further, but we'll talk again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's been been a real pleasure. Right, I'm going to leave you to smile and look at the camera, and I'm going to turn off the camera and just want to thank you very much for all your time.
No, thank you, Rashid. Right. That was brilliant.
Thank you.